welcome to another exciting episode of the NFL Network. It is week 15 starting tomorrow, and hard to believe that means we're only 4 weeks away from the end of the regular season. You know, it feels like we just got started with this whole thing, and now all of a sudden we're less than a month away from postseason football action coming our way, which we'll delve into here. We'll look at the path to the playoffs, of course, and my power rankings and the weekly predictions for week 15. But before we get to any of that, there was a big breaking news story today regarding Bill Belichick. Of course, last year he retired from coaching the New England Patriots after 23 years, many Super Bowl titles. Some of them were not technically ones he basically cheated to get, but I won't delve into that territory. Been pretty successful on television over the last couple of months on ESPN and the Pat McAfee show. But everyone thought that this was going to be just a brief retirement because he was going to eventually go back to coaching in the National Football League. You know, he almost got the job in Atlanta, supposedly, but of course he didn't take it. And there was a lot of coaching options opening up this year in the NFL, with Chicago already looking ahead, the New York Jets, the New Orleans Saints, of course, maybe the Dallas Cowboys, perhaps. You know, Jerry Jones really would love to get rid of Mike McCarthy, even though he won't admit it. But no, there has been a coaching hiring in the future for Bill Belichick. So he is going to be returning to coaching football in 2025. Just not the kind of football you'd be thinking of. No. We've been hearing this rumbling over the past week that, you know, Bill Belichick was speaking with the University of North Carolina about a potential deal. I guess he gave him like a 400-page book of what he wanted to have done. And apparently North Carolina was more than willing to do it, to the point where just today it was officially announced that Bill Belichick is going to be coaching in college football at the University of North Carolina. He signed a 5-year deal, and when that news broke, you can just hear all the NFL owners across the league who are looking to get rid of their coaches and try to go after Bill Belichick, all screaming simultaneously at once, "No!" Except for Jerry Jones, who went to Bill Belichick personally to tell him how he felt about this. And it's funny because I actually have found that footage right here. So let's just go ahead and take a listen to this real quickly. And you'll see exactly. This is impressive stuff. I can't believe I was the only one that was able to find this footage here. But let's just take a listen to see what Jerry Jones told Bill Belichick the moment he told him he was going to the University of North Carolina. That was Jerry Jones, everybody, begging Bill Belichick to reconsider. Please. Like, of course, I'm obviously kidding. That is not what actually happened. That was actually a video from a couple weeks back that was basically this video some guy took inside of a AT&T store where it was a mother and daughter, and the teenage daughter was going crazy inside the AT&T store because I guess the mother was cutting off for a phone bill. But it's a funny video. She completely loses her mind. Like, she's overacting over the top, and the mom's just like, "I don't give a fuck." Like, you need to shut the fuck. It's like this. It's like, you get what you deserve. And it's a really funny video. I'll go ahead and leave a link to the actual video there. But I took that clip and I basically plastered Jerry Jones and Bill Belichick in front of there, because you know this had to hurt Jerry Jones badly, the fact that Bill Belichick is now going to be the North Carolina head coach, because he wants to get rid of Mike McCarthy so bad, and just now he's going to have no choice but to keep him there and just pretend like he's like last year, just like, we're going to go all in with all our guys here. And it's just like, yeah, like, Dallas fans, I'm sorry, you've already got a lot of bad luck as it is right now, but man, This is bad. This is even worse for you now, knowing that you're probably stuck with Mike McCarthy for a while now. But back to the story at hand. Bill Belichick is going to be the new head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels, and I actually have the official press release here. So I'm going to go ahead and read you some of this for a little bit here. Just let's listen in on this. Okay, I just went over to the ESPN page because the North Carolina page kept freezing on me. But this is probably a better article, so it gives you kind of the details of what exactly is in this new deal. It says here from ESPN, it is in one of the most stunning and compelling moves in college football history. Six-time Super Bowl winning coach Bill Belichick was named the new head coach at North Carolina on Wednesday night. UNC officials said the sides agreed to a 5-year deal pending approval by the Board of Trustees, which is scheduled to hold an emergency meeting Thursday. So there's a slim possibility that this might not get done if the board doesn't approve this, but they wouldn't be making this big announcement, and UNC wouldn't have that on their page if it wasn't going to happen. Just wishful thinking on my part, but Belichick, 72, worked in the NFL in some capacity from 1975 until his divorce from the New England Patriots after the 2023 season. This will be his first college coaching job. Belichick's father, Steve, served as his assistant coach for the Tar Heels from 1953 to 1955. So there is a little bit of a relationship between both Bill Belichick and North Carolina. This isn't just some random pairing up here. So there is a little bit of history there. I'm trying to see if I can find where it's about about the book that he basically gave North Carolina, but one of the other noteworthy things about this is that Michael Lombardi, a former NFL executive who was an assistant under Belichick for the Patriots from 2014 to 2016, said Wednesday night he would serve as the general manager of the Tar Heels program, which should give Raiders fans out there, or probably let North Carolina fans know, you're about to get the same thing that happened when Josh McDaniels came to the Raiders, because Michael Lombardi, I think, was involved with was heavily involved in the Raiders when Josh McDaniels was there, and let's just say that that didn't end very well here. But I'm trying to see if I can find where he was talking. They were talking about like a 400-page book that Belichick gave North Carolina. Let me see if I can find it here. Okay, I found it here. This is from Newsweek, where I found this article, but according to the most compelling rumor to date, the 72-year-old coach, who will be 73 by the time the college football season kicks off, has agreed to coach for UNC and presented the school with a 400-page organizational Bible that contains a set of demands that he is unwilling to negotiate. Belichick's Bible, which he has shared with other colleges and pro teams but customized specifically for the UNC position, contains structure, payment plans, staffing choices, and salary minimum position by positions that will require historic levels of investment for the school. To appease Belichick, the school would also have to commit to a coaching staff run by Belichick and a recruitment staff run by a sitting college general manager who would need to be bought out of his current contract. There was also a thing in there where it said that in the event that, Bill Belichick decides to retire, his son, Steve Belichick, would be the successor. And I think they said that North Carolina was more than willing to do just that. But no matter how you look at it, this is an incredibly interesting news story here where, we all knew that Bill Belichick was going to find his way back in coaching at some level, but we thought it was going to be in the NFL, maybe a defensive coordinator, maybe another head coaching position in general, but no, he's going to the college football, which is impressive, and it's interesting because it basically says to him that, hey, I'm not in any hurry to go past Don Shula for the most wins in football NFL history. And, it's a very interesting scenario here. And we're already seeing people on ESPN and NFL Network overhyping this as, like, this is a game changer. Like, this is going to change everything. This is going to be instant national championship dreams are abound here. Which, if we've seen what has happened over the last 5 years with anybody hyping up all these big NFL news, NFL acquisitions, like going back to when the Cleveland Browns in 19, everyone thought they were going to go to the Super Bowl when Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham would team up, and then just recently with Deshaun Watson getting traded to the Cleveland Browns, getting all that guaranteed money, Russell Wilson to the Broncos, Aaron Rodgers to the Jets. I think the best thing that needs to be said about here is that slow your roll. We have no idea how this is going to turn out. For all we know, if we get overhyped this to a point of no return, it's going to ending up not working out overall. So I'm not really going to go out and say that this is going to be an instant win right away. This could either be really good or really disastrous, depending on how this whole thing works out. It's still too early to tell on what's going to happen, but it's going to be very interesting to watch North Carolina next year, which I'm glad that the Pitt Panthers don't play them next year. They'll play them in 2026, assuming that this isn't a failure in year one. But Should be very interesting to see how that pans out. So that was one of the big news. That was probably the biggest news story to come out today in terms of the NFL. But there was another story regarding the Eagles and how there's some turmoil with Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown. But we'll delve more into that when we get to my predictions for this week's game with them. But before we do all of that, you hear that noise in the background? You hear that? That means that it is time once again to take a look at the NFL Network's Path to the Playoffs. I apologize for that once again. I'm going to keep apologizing for that, but I'm going to keep doing that every single week, God damn it. So let's start off with the NFC and the conference standings right now. As you can see on here, the Detroit Lions are currently still the 1 seed. They finally clinched a playoff berth with their win over Green Bay last week. Philadelphia has clinched a playoff berth this week after their win against Carolina, their close win against Carolina, sitting at 11-2. Seattle remains in the 3 spot at 8-5. They still lead the NFC West right now, basically having the tiebreaker over the Arizona Cardinals, who have slowly but surely started to fade out. So have the Atlanta Falcons, who lost the 4th spot of the playoff picture to Tampa Bay, even though Atlanta has the tiebreaker over Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay keeps winning games, Atlanta not so much. Nothing really changes with the wild cards. Minnesota, Green Bay, Washington are still very much intact where they are. The Rams are making a comeback, though. They're sitting at 7-6. They got a big game tomorrow night against the 49ers. And we'll touch more into that in just a second, but as you can see, there are still 4 teams remaining besides the Rams in the bubble for the playoffs. Atlanta still not out of it yet. Arizona still not out of it. San Francisco still not out of it, even though they're all 6-7. New Orleans officially out of it. Is New Orleans not officially out either at 5-8, even though they have a long hurdle to climb because the more they stack these wins, but yet they keep getting all these injuries piling up, and we'll delve into that as we move on to their game this week. Cowboys are still in it, 5-8. They can't win the NFC East title, obviously, but they're still in there somehow. Chicago is still in there somehow. Carolina is still in there somehow, but then again, that's the NFC South. Yeah, the only team that is eliminated from the playoffs in the NFC is the New York Giants, who currently are sitting in good position for the number 1 seed in general. But in the AFC, it's a little bit more simplified here. I mean, Kansas City has won the AFC West. They're still in very much in prime position for the number 1 seed, even though they're the worst 12-1 team in NFL history, let's be honest with you. But Buffalo took a bit of a back seat this week after losing to the Rams in a very close game, but they're still in the 2 seed. They still have won the AFC East, so they're good to go there. Pittsburgh still has a possibility of getting the number 1 seed, but it's going to literally take a Christmas miracle to get through this hell stretch that I'm about to talk about later on here coming up. But it's not officially out of the woods just yet for them. Houston's still hanging in there at 8-5 in the AFC South, but it's the AFC South, and let's be honest, no team in there really is that great. The closest one that's there is Indianapolis, and even then, Indianapolis has been a very mixed bag of a team. Not much really changes in the wild card except the Baltimore Ravens move up to the 5 seed after the Chargers lost to Kansas City on Sunday night. Denver is still hanging around in there at 8-5, even though they had a bye week this week. Miami is still hanging around in there at 6-7. Cincinnati has a thin layer of a chance to still contend for a playoff spot. Sitting at 5-8, they're basically going to need to win out and hope for help from some other teams losing. But we'll see what happens there. And we have 6 teams eliminated in the AFC playoff picture. Cleveland dropped to 3-10 with their loss to Pittsburgh. Jacksonville is 3-10, even though they won slightly over Tennessee. Tennessee has also been eliminated. The New York Jets have been eliminated. New England and Las Vegas were eliminated last week. So that's where things stand in terms of the records. Now, in terms of clinching scenarios for this week, in the NFC, the Philadelphia Eagles can clinch the NFC East Division title with 2 possibilities. One, they win against Pittsburgh, plus Washington would need to lose to the New Orleans Saints, but that'd be very difficult to do because, let's be honest, Washington, I think, has a good chance of beating New Orleans this week. Or Philadelphia ties Pittsburgh and Washington loses. Minnesota simply can clinch a playoff spot as early as tomorrow, but they can also do it with a win this weekend. They could do it tomorrow if the Rams lose to the 49ers. If the 49ers beat the Rams tomorrow, the Minnesota Vikings clinch a playoff berth, or Seattle would lose to Green Bay on Sunday night. Green Bay can clinch a playoff spot with a win, a Los Angeles Rams San Francisco tie, or an Atlanta loss or tie. So of those three scenarios, Minnesota right now has the best opportunity to clinch a playoff berth this week, and it could happen as soon as tomorrow or tonight, depending on when you're watching this, or it could be over the weekend when Minnesota wins or Seattle loses. So they have the best possibility of getting a playoff berth there. In the AFC, two possibilities for playoff clinching scenarios. Houston clinches the AFC South with a win over the Miami Dolphins and an Indianapolis loss, and Pittsburgh can clinch a playoff berth with two possibilities. One, Pittsburgh would need to win against Philadelphia, which means that they would have to buck a 60-year trend going to Philadelphia, but we'll touch on that a little bit later on. Or Indianapolis would need to lose to Denver, and Miami would need to lose to Houston. And honestly, of the two possibilities, I think the second option probably is the best option for the Steelers this week to clinch a playoff berth, because Indianapolis is playing against Denver, which Denver is going to try to keep winning to stay put in the wild card picture. I mean, this is their best opportunity. They've had a long time to get into the playoffs, so they're not going to blow that opportunity, one would hope. And Miami's playing Houston. Miami's been good the last couple of weeks, but they've had a couple of stumbles here and there. Can Houston find that spark again? Can Houston find that spark that they had at the beginning of the season after coming out of the bye week here? And we'll see what happens on that front. In terms of elimination scenarios, Carolina will simply be eliminated from playoff contention with a loss, another loss, Tampa Bay winning or Atlanta winning. So more than likely their season's pretty much over and done with, even though they're trying their best the last couple of weeks to do so. Dallas would be eliminated with a loss or a Washington win, or a tie and a Washington win. Chicago is eliminated with a loss or a Washington win. Washington is knocked out of NFC East title contention with a loss, or a Philadelphia win, a Washington tie or a Philadelphia win. Green Bay would be knocked out of NFC North title contention with a loss to Seattle, or a Green Bay tie, or a Minnesota win or tie. Green Bay tie or Detroit tie, a Detroit win, a Detroit tie, or a Minnesota win. San Francisco would be knocked out with a loss or a Seattle win. Seattle would be knocked out of one seed contention with a loss, a Detroit win, a Minnesota win, a Philadelphia win. And, I'm just running through all the different scenarios I have here on this website, NFLPlayoffScenarios.com. But the ones that, basically a lot of teams could be eliminated from specific areas and specific playoff contentions. But in terms of clinching scenarios, Philadelphia clinches the NFC East division title with a win or a Washington loss, or Philadelphia title, Washington loss. Minnesota can clinch with a win, a loss by the Rams, or the loss by the Seahawks. Green Bay clinches the playoff berth with a win, a Los Angeles Rams San Francisco tie, or Atlanta loss. Houston clinches the AFC South with a win or an Indianapolis loss, or Pittsburgh can clinch a playoff berth with a win or an Indianapolis loss plus a Miami loss. So that's the path to the playoffs so far. And again, don't be surprised if you see a lot of teams getting knocked out of playoff contention. But with all of that said, let's jump into my weekly power rankings. So the power rankings this week, as you see, some significant changes overall this week. Now at the bottom of the barrel now is the Atlanta Falcons, who have replaced the Carolina Panthers as a team that progressively keeps getting worse and worse because Kirk Cousins has been getting worse and worse. I mean, you drafted Michael Penix Jr. in the first round for a reason. The Falcons are struggling right now, and I feel like if you have any real chance of making the playoffs here, you got to see what you got in Michael Penix Jr. But of course, Raheem Morris isn't going to do that because that's not part of our plan. We got to go the Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love route, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers route. And just because Green Bay has successfully made that work twice doesn't mean you're going to make it work at all when you don't have any championships to back that up. But the power rankings as a whole in terms of the top five, a couple notable additions here. The Minnesota Vikings, I just said, fuck it. I'm tired of not believing in the hype, but I'll believe in the hype now. Minnesota Vikings moving into the 5th spot this week for the first time, I think. But, got a win against the Arizona Cardinals. Yeah, so I just can't take it anymore. I'm giving up the whole thing that each one of these wins they've had are just been you've been so lucky and you're just getting away with it all because we all know that 2017 was clearly not a fluke. You know, it was destiny for the Minnesota Vikings to get to the Super Bowl that year, even though they didn't because they got their ass trounced by them by the Philadelphia Eagles the following week after that miracle catch by Stephon Diggs that sent them to the NFC Championship game. But no. Clearly, the Minnesota Vikings are the way to go. I mean, it's not like they've had so much bad luck over the last 60+ years of their existence that clearly this is. Bottom line, I hate that I have to do this, but I'm sorry. They had the most convincing, one of the most convincing wins of the week. Minnesota just trounced Arizona. Arizona just. I don't get it with Arizona, man. Like, I'll delve more into it when we get to my predictions, but Arizona, I'm very disappointed in you. And Minnesota, I can't keeping you out of there for much longer. I have to put you in the list. I'd rather put Minnesota Vikings in the top 5 rather than the Kansas City Chiefs, which I'm sorry. The Kansas City Chiefs are the worst 12-1 team in NFL history because the Kansas City Chiefs just can't keep getting away with these lucky wins. Sooner or later, that bubble is going to burst. Now, if it happens against the Steelers, it'd be the greatest Christmas gift of all, honestly. But I'm sorry, I just can't do that anymore. They're 13th in my list of the power rankings here. But Minnesota, welcome to the top 5, man. I don't know if I put you in here before, but I'm ready to buy into it. Sam Darnold's been playing pretty good for the Vikings. Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, they have really put together a really good team overall right there in Minnesota. And let's see how they play in the playoffs. But right now, they're playing pretty good football right now. They're playing some of the best football right now. Just like number 4 on the list, the Buffalo Bills. Even though they lost to the Rams this week in a very competitive game, I mean, how can you go wrong with Josh Allen with 6 touchdowns in that game? 3 passing touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns. He's a lock right now for the MVP because I know Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley also are in contention for the MVP award, but they don't. But the last couple of years they've been giving it mostly to QBs. They haven't been really giving it to the running backs overall. So, yeah, I think Josh Allen right now is a lock for the MVP, and I think the Buffalo Bills are still one of the better teams to watch in the NFL right now. And yeah, they took a step back this week against the Los Angeles Rams, but they got a tough one this week against the Detroit Lions. Could be a Super Bowl preview, and I think most people would agree. I would rather see the Buffalo Bills and the Lions in the Super Bowl rather than seeing Kansas City in there. Let's get 2 teams that haven't won a Super Bowl before, and let's see which one of them will duke it out and win their first one. I think that would make for an interesting Super Bowl overall if it's the Buffalo Bills and the Detroit Lions. 3 on the list, the Philadelphia Eagles, and I put them in there because, Carolina put up a good fight, but Philadelphia did as much as they could to stay in that game in general. There was not a lot of convincingly good wins this week overall. I mean, there was a lot of wins that were I thought were going to be more than expected, but they just really were not. But as you'll see in my predictions for what I had last week overall, but the 2 most convincing wins I had in there this week, the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 2. I was really shocked that I thought about putting them in there, but think about everything the Steelers had to go through this week. They had to deal with shutting Cleveland down because Cleveland was getting so stuck up their ass again because of what they did 2 weeks ago on Thursday night. And, they thought that they were the hot shit. And then they got that big wake-up call from Denver. And then they come into Pittsburgh. And I really thought the Steelers were going to lose that game in Cleveland on Sunday morning when George Pickens was ruled out because of the hamstring injury, which supposedly has gotten a lot worse. So that's something to keep an eye on over the next couple of weeks for the Steelers. But the game plan really did not change for them when they went in there. I mean, it really did feel like that nothing really changed overall, and the Steelers dominated over the Cleveland Browns. I mean, they were beating them pretty good. It's given me a little bit of hope, but I know what's coming next week with the third team on the list coming up, but that's why I put them on the number 2. I thought they had the most convincing win, finally shutting that narrative down for the Cleveland Browns, knocking their season out, knocking their playoff chances out of the picture altogether. And once again, number 1 on the list, Detroit. The Detroit Lions are the number 1 team in the country right now in my power rankings. And really, it's not hard to see why, because they just keep stacking wins up. And they had a really tough game against a Green Bay Packers team. And Dan Campbell, man. Dan freaking Campbell on a 4th-and-1 play, which could have backfired easily, but they found a way to get the first down, take the clock down as much as they could, kick the field goal, and that was it for them. I mean, it was a very convincing win, and I'm hoping that the Lions continue this mark here because they have been consistently the best team in the league all season long. And you got a tough game coming up this week. The schedule is looking very tough over the next couple of weeks, but hey, it could be done. The Lions could find a way to finish 16-1 if they keep playing this good. And even though they keep losing key pieces on the defensive front, they're still playing lights out football, and they've been playing the most consistent football all season long. And this could finally be the thing that bucks their trend all along, gets them to the Super Bowl finally, and maybe even wins the Super Bowl for them. But again, we'll wait to see what happens there. But overall, not really an impressive amount of wins to really shake things up in terms of the power rankings here. But with all of that said, let's dive into my weekly predictions for the week. So, my predictions last week, I thought I had a good opportunity to get better from the last couple of weeks. I've been struggling the last couple of weeks, but I thought this week was really going to be the week that changes everything. Like, it really, games that I thought were going to be easy wins for these specific teams that I picked. Surely I thought that was going to be the case here, and surely the results will speak for themselves. And oh my god! Oh my god, how did I do so horribly? Like, the late window games on Sunday killed me. I thought the Cardinals were going to be that good of a football team to finally to tie the Seahawks, to have the tiebreaker, but nope. I thought the Bills were going to beat the Rams. Nope. I thought because Matt Eberflus was gone, the Bears were finally going to take down this really banged-up 49ers team. 49ers completely shut them out in the first quarter, in the first half. I think it was like 31-0 in the first half at one point. It's just like, oh my god. Last week was pretty bad. Last week was incredibly, incredibly bad. As you can see, 6 of 13, 46%. So if you take a look here, I am 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm not doing too bad. I mean, I'll consider 50% a little bit more than positive. 50% or more positive. So 10 out of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 out of 4, which admittedly is not bad, but it's certainly not great either. And so, yeah, I'm hoping for a little bit of good luck to come my way this week. I think I've got a good idea for most of these games of how they're going to transpire, but we'll see for here. Let's go ahead and take a look and start off with the big Thursday night matchup here. We got the Los Angeles Rams going to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. As I said, 49ers completely decimated the Chicago Bears. Turns out that, hey, Matt Eberflus wasn't the only problem this team had with them. And, yeah, this is a game where, the 49ers have been so banged up, and yet somehow they found a way to just destroy whatever hope the Chicago Bears had left for them. I mean, it's all but inevitable they're going to get eliminated from the playoffs. Hopefully, it's likely this week. But now, when it comes to the Los Angeles Rams, they had that dominant win over the Buffalo Bills, which really turned their season around, I think. Puka Nacua, man, turning into a big breakout star now in the second year in the league. And now heading into this game here, the 49ers and the Rams have had some very interesting history together. I mean, the last couple of years, ever since Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan came together in the first year, the Rams have done a pretty good job. It's been a very close game. I mean, there's been years when the 49ers just dominated. There was like a 3-year stretch where they were just dominating over the Rams. And then, of course, in the playoffs, the Rams beat the 49ers for the NFC Championship. And then, of course, the following year, the 49ers just dominated over them in 2022. And the last couple of years, it's been a very mixed bag. The Rams and 49ers split the season last year. And then, of course, this year, the Rams beat the 49ers at home in September 27-24. But now the Rams and 49ers look like two completely different teams. Rams have been on a hot streak as of late. And the 49ers are still dealing with a ton of injuries. They just lost their third consecutive running back in the last 2 weeks. And they've been just struggling to keep up. But they still found a way to win a game. And this is a big game overall. Obviously for playoff implications. The Rams are still trying to hang on to the possibility of getting into the playoffs. 49ers are still trying to hold on to that little bit of a thin hope of getting back to NFC West contention. But right now, it's looking like everything is pretty much on the line going forward here. And I just don't think the 49ers have that much left in them. The Rams have more to play for with this particular game here. And I feel like the Rams, coming off of that dominant win over the Buffalo Bills on Sunday, they're going to take that momentum into this week and just sweep the 49ers in this game. I really do feel like that's a possibility that could happen. The Rams right now are just playing really good football right now, and they are really playing better football than the 49ers are right now. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Rams in this one. I think the Rams will use that game against the Bills as motivation going forward. I think they've got a very good chance of potentially running the table here and making a chance for the playoffs in here. So I'm going to go ahead and give the Rams a win. Give me the Rams to go to 8-6 and the 49ers to drop to 6-8. So next up, we've got the Kansas City Chiefs going into Cleveland to take on the Cleveland Browns. The Browns, of course, their season is pretty much over after the Steelers beat them last week, eliminating them from playoff contention. Chiefs are still hanging on there. I mean, Chiefs won the AFC West. They're still very much in contention for the number one seed. But as I've said before, they are the worst 12-1 team I think I've seen in a long, long time. I'm just waiting for the inevitable, because we all know it's going to come. This team is going to collapse at some point here. I don't know whether it's going to be in the regular season or in the playoffs, but the fact that the Chiefs have not looked like the same team that has won back-to-back Super Bowl championships, it's really hard to really get excited over the Chiefs unless you live in Kansas City, which, yeah, whenever I did the obligatory Chiefs video of them winning the AFC West on TikTok and YouTube, of course, a bunch of Chiefs fans were just like, "Hey, we won the division, yay!" It's just like, yeah, you won the division, but even though you have not really done a whole lot to convince people that you are going to be a three-peat Super Bowl champion, but they keep doing it. They keep finding ways to win, and the Cleveland Browns, they really don't have much to play for overall except for pride and just to show that, maybe Jameis Winston, this is an opportunity for him to just say, you know what? You guys are probably going to get rid of Deshaun Watson, so let me use these last 4 weeks of the season to prove that I still have what it takes to be a starting quarterback in the league, and hopefully that's the case here. Everyone's going to pick the Chiefs, but I want to go with the Chiefs here, but I just can't do it, man. I'm just waiting for that moment for that ship to collapse here, so I'm going crazy on this one. I'm going to say the Cleveland Browns pulled off the upset win. I think it's going to be a very sloppy game. I think it's going to be a very ugly game, but I think the Cleveland Browns can find a way to keep keep this game low scoring, find a way to beat the Chiefs in here, and I don't know. This may be my worst prediction of the week here. I think the Cleveland Browns pull off the upset win here. I'm going to say that it's going to be a very ugly game. I think it will come down to a field goal here, but it might come down to a field goal for the Cleveland Browns, a redemption arc for Dustin Hopkins, who missed 2 critical field goals last week in the loss to the Steelers, but I think he gets a redemption arc here. This is going to backfire big time on me, but screw it. I got to do it. I feel like it's going to happen. It's going to happen sooner or later for the Chiefs to start the collapse, whether it's now or in the postseason, but give me the Cleveland Browns to go to 4-10 and the Chiefs to drop to 12-2. Now watch the Chiefs somehow win this week, because that's what's going to happen. It's going to come down to a field goal, just like it has the last couple weeks, or some stupid play that benefits the Chiefs and not the opposing team. But anyway, moving on. Let's go ahead and take a look at our next game, and that is the Brian Callahan Bowl. You got the Cincinnati Bengals over the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee, yeah, their season's over and done with. They were knocked out of playoff contention last week. They just don't look like a team that is really playing for anything in particular. They're just kind of just waiting to get to the finish line here. I really don't think Will Levis is the future of this franchise. And I really thought Mason Rudolph was going to play a lot more overall. He has, but it hasn't really helped him in terms of wins in general. This team has just been struggling all season long. When you trade away DeAndre Hopkins, is one of the best wide receivers in the league, and look at how well he's doing in Kansas City right now. It's just kind of like what else is there really to play for the Tennessee Titans right now, except for pride? Maybe going for one of those top quarterback picks in the draft, because they're going to be right up there with a lot of other teams in that gap there in the top 5. But you got the Cincinnati Bengals coming off of that big win on Monday night against the Dallas Cowboys, which, by the way, I said before, the Simpsons Football Fun Day was going to be the reason why you should watch that game on Disney when it's on Disney Plus. It did not disappoint. It was one of the most spectacularly bad but fun games I've ever seen. Like seeing Bart Simpson and Bart and Lisa channeling Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase for the game-winning touchdown against the defender for the Cowboys, who was Homer, was one of the funniest things ever. And I just thought that, that was the best way to watch that game overall. But Cincinnati's still hanging in there. Like I said, they're going to basically need to win out and get a lot of help to get to the playoffs overall. But they're playing with house money right now. They're coming off a big win. They're going into a place where the team is really struggling overall in Tennessee. No question about it. This is one of those easy wins, I would think. But I'm going with the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm going to go with the Bengals to go to 6-8, and the Titans to go to 3-11. I don't think that's really much of a surprise overall. But hey, stranger things have happened. Next up on the schedule here, we've got the Washington Commanders taking on the New Orleans Saints. The Saints under Darren Rizzi. They've been stacking wins up. I don't know how they do it, but they do it. And, the football gods are making them pay nicely because with every win, they take away a key part of their offense, of their team in general, I should say, because Taysom Hill, of course, got taken out last week in the loss to the Rams. And this week, Derek Carr has now been officially knocked out for the next couple of games. And now they brought in Ben DiNucci to be the quarterback for the rest of the season for the New Orleans Saints. Saints have a slim chance of making the playoffs, but at this point, he even wanted to have it at this point. Like, obviously the Saints are going to be one of those teams that's going to be rehauling everything next season. But the Washington Commanders, they're a team that has a very critical 4-game stretch coming up here. Because after this, they've got to play the Philadelphia Eagles again, which they lost the first game. They got to play the Atlanta Falcons, who are also kind of in limbo right now. And then they play the Cowboys, who shockingly beat them before Thanksgiving. So they're a team that's been really struggling the last couple weeks, but last week against Tennessee, 2 weeks ago against Tennessee, they really dominated over them and got back on track here. There's still a possibility they could make the playoffs as a wild card team. I don't think they're going to make the win the division as a whole, but if they can find a way to go in there, there's a possibility they could still make the wild card and make a convincing case to maybe go in there and maybe shock the world here, because they've been exceeding a lot of expectations all season long. Obviously, Jaden Daniels has done just that and then some, but yeah, this is a game they should easily win. New Orleans is just kind of falling apart at the seams right now. It's only a matter of time before Alvin Kamara or some of the other big players they have on there get injured, and sooner rather than later, the Saints are just going to be hoping that the season will be over by now, which they're probably thinking about that right now as it is, But yeah, this one is another easy win, I think, for the Washington Commanders. Give me the Commanders to go with 9-5 and the Saints to drop to 5-9. Moving on here, we've got another game that I think should be easy enough. But the last time these two teams met, it was a surprising situation. If you remember that game from a couple years ago, it was the Baltimore Ravens and the New York Giants. Giants, speaking of teams that are ready for the season to be over with, Giants are currently sitting with the number 1 overall pick in the draft, and right now, expectations are they should keep it that way unless they decide to fuck up their own tank, which they could possibly do. And what better team to do it against than the Baltimore Ravens, who the last time we saw them got humiliated by the Philadelphia Eagles in their own home, which was probably one of the biggest shockers overall. The Philadelphia Eagles somehow found a way to win in Baltimore. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. Saquon Barkley just ran all over them in the fourth quarter to essentially put the game away. Of course, Justin Tucker's been struggling too. They've had their bye week last week, so the next 4 games are critical for them because, they've got the Giants this week, which should be an easy win. Then they host the Steelers. Then they go to Houston on Christmas Day to play the Texans, and then they end the season with the Cleveland Browns. So the Ravens, I think, are still very much in contention to make the playoffs. Will they get the AFC North title again? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see what happens with the Steelers going forward, but I can't pick the New York Giants in this case as much as I want to. What did the New York Giants have left? I mean, they got rid of Daniel Jones. Their quarterback that they had before, Drew Lock, the backup quarterback, Drew Lock, is now injured, and he's basically done for the next couple of games. So now it's going to be Tommy DeVito. The best player they have is the running back Tyrone Tracy and Malik Neighbors. The defense is completely shredded. Dexter Lawrence is out for the season. And, there's just nothing really that left for them to get excited about except the fact that you're going to be drafting one of the top quarterbacks in the league in the draft next year. But like I said before, no one thought the Giants were going to beat the Ravens in 2022. But even though, they had Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley there. But, stranger things have happened, but I'm just not ready to go down that route to think the Giants are going to pull off this upset here. I think it would help the Steelers if they do that, but I really don't think that's going to happen here. The Ravens should easily win this one, no question about it. If Derrick Henry isn't the reason why they win this, if Derrick Henry isn't the reason why what am I trying to say here? If Derrick Henry isn't the reason the Ravens win this game, then there's going to be a massive problem here because Derrick Henry should just run all over the Giants in this game here. But give me the Ravens to go to 9-5, Giants dropping to 2-12. Now let's break away from the games that should be easy wins and talk about a game that might be a little bit interesting to see. The Dallas Cowboys over the Carolina Panthers. The Cowboys, of course, have been struggling mightily since Dak Prescott got injured. They've been struggling, let's be honest, for most of the season. They've only won one home game this season. And it was against the Giants on Thanksgiving. And all of a sudden, everybody was just like, "We're going to run the table. We're going to go all in on this. We're going to go deep. We're going to go deep in the playoffs." That's Micah Parsons saying that, by the way. And then reality came to bite him in the ass against the Cincinnati Bengals, which, of all the ways to lose a game, that is probably one of the funniest ways possible. Not only to lose a game by blocking a punt and then having that punt be muffed and the other team getting it back, but shades of Leon Lett. What a way for that game to end. But the good news for the Cowboys is that they're playing a Carolina Panthers team that is 3-10. Now, granted, they have played gutsy football over the last month. They have gone from being the worst team in the NFL this season to a team that really is high up there with it because Bryce Young is definitely showing a lot more promise than he did at the beginning of the season. And yeah, it's just really showing that maybe there is a future for the Panthers after all. Maybe there is a future for Bryce Young overall, and you just had to give him time to really adjust to this new system that they have here. And I wanted to pick them this week, but I don't think I can really do that. I think this is going to be a much closer game than people let on because I think the Cowboys and the Panthers have played well enough to make this a much more competitive game than I think it has any right to be. I think the Panthers could win this game, but if I had to pick between one or the other, I'd probably say the Dallas Cowboys find a way to win this one here because their offense has been clicking a lot better these last couple weeks. Rico Dowdle has turned into a nice little piece on the running back front. Of course, CeeDee Lamb is playing very good right now. And Cooper Rush is playing decent football right now. So there's a possibility that the Cowboys can find a way to win this game. And it could go the other way. The Panthers could find a way to do it too. But I picked the Panthers way too many times, only for them to disappoint me in the end. So yeah, I got to pick the Cowboys in this one. It's a close one, but I got to give the Cowboys the 6-8 move and Panthers to drop to 3-11. And now let's get back to the crappy games. We got the New York Jets taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars, two teams with huge playoff aspirations at the start of the season, Super Bowl aspirations, and then just completely fell off the map afterwards. And you can't blame Aaron Rodgers for injuries. Aaron Rodgers' injuries this time around for the New York Jets. They're just a bad football team, and you can blame Aaron Rodgers for a ton of things. Obviously everything that he did beforehand here, but the Jacksonville Jaguars it's just not been clicking for them so far this year. But they have found ways to win games. They barely got out of Tennessee with a win, and they're doing it without Trevor Lawrence there, of course, out for the season. So it's Mac Jones there, and this is one of those ugly games that I could have easily just say, I'm going to go for a tie here because neither one of these teams are really that good, but I'm going to go with the Jaguars in this one. I think the Jaguars, because of the home field advantages and the fact that the Jets keep finding ways to lose these close games. The Jets played very well last week against Miami, but they just couldn't get the W. They couldn't stop the Dolphins' offense from getting going. The Dolphins didn't let the Jets touch the football in overtime, and of course they won the game on that front. I think there's a good chance the Jaguars can go into this game and get out a close win. It's going to be another one of those ugly games, but I am going to pick the Jacksonville Jaguars to go for it because of the home field advantage and the fact that I think they're better sustainable to playing this game than the Jets are. So give me the Jaguars to go to 4-10, the Jets to drop to 3-11. Moving on, we have the Miami Dolphins and the Houston Texans. The Texans coming off their bye week. They were 8-5 after starting 6-2. They've been struggling mightily the last couple of weeks. So was this bye week the thing that really pushed them back to where they were once before? They've got 4 games left to turn the season around. They still hold the best possibility of taking the AFC South because, let's be honest, the rest of the AFC South is absolutely horrible. But they have a game against the Miami Dolphins who, I think they just waited way too long when Tua was out to really keep the season alive here. I mean, they're trying their best to hold it together, but in the end, I don't think it's going to be enough. You would need a miraculous collapse from either Baltimore, the Chargers, or Denver for the Dolphins to get back in the thick of things, and I don't think it's going to happen overall. I mean, I just don't see the possibility there. Tua's still playing it. You're seeing that when Tua is in there and they're playing very well. But like I said, just that stretch was from the time he got injured to, when he came back. I think it was just too little, too late for them to really do anything. But here's the thing: the Houston Texans have struggled badly. I mean, they have had that sophomore slump. I had this team as a dream Super Bowl pick, but I've regretted that decision ever since they lost to Tennessee. And it's just like, how did you lose to the Tennessee Titans of all teams? Maybe this could be the opportunity to go on a stretch run, but I don't know. I just don't see it here. I think the Dolphins actually have an edge in this game, and I think they've got an opportunity to go in there and shock the Houston Texans. It just feels like a game they could easily overpower Houston on because of how they've been playing the last couple of weeks. And plus, it's not going to be played in under 40-degree weather, so that's a win on their front. But I digress. I'm actually going with the Miami Dolphins to win this one. I'm going to go with them to go to 7-7 and the Texans to drop to 8-6. Moving on, we've got a matchup in Denver and at Mile High, the Indianapolis Colts taking on the Denver Broncos. The last time we saw the Colts, they beat the New England Patriots in a very close game where Anthony Richardson showed that little brief flash of promise he had is all season long. It's been kind of a mixed bag for Anthony Richardson. I think he is the future for the franchise. I just think he needs a better coach to really get out his full potential overall. And this is because he's been showing a lot of promise overall. The Denver Broncos, though, have been dominating this season overall. And as I said before, they're in the best possibility to get back to the playoffs for the first time since Peyton Manning was there. I mean, this is their best opportunity to do it. I really don't think they're going to mess it up here. And I think the Broncos have all the momentum going forward, especially after the last time we saw them 2 weeks ago against the Cleveland Browns. I mean, Bo Nix is turning out to be a really damn good pick for them overall. I think a lot of people, when Bo Nix was selected by the Denver Broncos, everybody kind of thought that, they're just picking him because, he was one of the last quarterbacks left. But look what Sean Payton and Bo Nix have done so far. They've done a pretty good job of turning this team around here, and I think it's going to be enough to give the Broncos that motivation to keep going and keep going into this possibility of getting to the playoffs for the first time in 8 years. So, yeah, I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos to keep the momentum going. Give me the Broncos to go to 9-5, Colts to drop to 6-8. And now we're getting into the good stuff here. We got two big matchups in the 425 window, starting with the Buffalo Bills and the Detroit Lions. As I talked about before, the Lions eked out a win against the Green Bay Packers last week with a big gamble by Dan Campbell, of course, that worked out in his favor. Bills played a good game against the Rams, but the Rams were just way too much for the Bills to handle. This could be, as I said, a Super Bowl preview right here because you've got two very dominant teams. The Lions have been playing lights-out football all season long. When you watch those Lions games on TV, you could just sense the momentum in that building in the last 5 years has changed spectacularly. I mean, this team has played some of the best football all season long, and they're facing a tough task with the Buffalo Bills, who are still in the hunt to get the number 1 seed. And they would essentially need to win these big games coming up here to really do that. Their first test was the Rams last week. That didn't work out in their favor. I don't think it's going to work out well for them this week against the Lions. Even though the Lions have had some defensive injury problems, they should be getting some help this week with some players coming back on there, which could help them out in the long run. And I think it's going to help them out in winning this game overall. I think the Lions have been so dominant at home, and they know that Minnesota is creeping up right behind them, and so are the Packers. So they got to keep stacking these wins up here, so the Vikings have no chance of catching up to them. So I'm going to give the Lions the win in this one. I think it's going to be a very close game. I think it'll come down to the wire here, and it may come down to another big Dan Campbell coaching decision to go for it on 4th down. That could decide the game overall. Give me the Lions to go to 13-1, the Bills to drop to 10-3. Next up, we have another massive game coming up in the 425 window, and that is my Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. The Pennsylvania Bowl, another edition of the Pennsylvania Bowl, this time taking place in Philadelphia, where I've said time and time again, the Steelers have had a lot of trouble playing in Philadelphia and winning regular season games. They can do well in the preseason, but when it comes to regular season games, something about this team in the regular season, they just can't get past this ridiculous drought that they've been stuck in. 59 years since the last time they won in Philadelphia in a game that actually mattered. 1965. 1965 was when that happened last. That is something that is just, it's unbelievable how long it's been since then. And it's just it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable that they've had that record going forward. And that's why I've been so pessimistic about this game going forward. Everyone's been telling me, well, things change overall, so something's got to give here. And I'd like to believe that, but then again, the Eagles have beaten this team with Kevin Kolb as their quarterback. That was back in 2008. That was the year they won the Super Bowl. It's asinine how this team just can't find a way to win in Philadelphia when it matters the most. Now, some people have also been telling me, well, Russell Wilson has this great record against the Eagles, 6-0 in their history. Is in the history that he's played against the Eagles. He's been perfect for them in Lincoln Financial Field. You shouldn't be worried about this at all. Yeah, I am worried about it. I'm sorry to say, but I am worried about it. I mean, yeah, the Steelers got a big win against Cleveland last week, but even then, it's just that had to be done to get that to shut down all the noise in Cleveland. But Philadelphia barely got out of there with a win against Carolina, which has led to a little bit of a controversy going on just today, as of the day I'm recording this. Let me see if I can find this. It was apparently Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown really are not on the same note here. As much as they want to say now, it's just oh, it's cool, man. We're fine. There's no off-the-field drama. Yeah, that's the same thing that they said about Donovan McNabb and Terrell Owens back in 2005. How did that work out? Not so well. Essentially, what happened was that there was a lot of discord between A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts following the win over Carolina. And, Hurts basically, there was a whole thing where, A.J. Brown was not happy with the fact that the passing game was not good during the win against Carolina, which it really didn't need to be. I mean, you got Jalen Hurts, who's a running quarterback, and not only that, you got Saquon Barkley, who's putting up these dominant numbers this year. And yeah, I think that's going to be the key thing for this game in particular. Keep Russell Wilson off the field. We got two guys that can run the football pretty well here, so you really don't have to worry about the passing game all that much here. But like I said, I just can't get over that record, that 60-year record for the Philadelphia Eagles over the Steelers. It's just I know something's got to give here. I just don't think it's going to happen. I would love for it to happen. I would love for the Steelers to get past this hell run coming up here. I mean, 3 games in 11 days. 3 games in 11 days where you got to play the Eagles in Philadelphia, then you got to go to Baltimore on Saturday, and then you got to come back and play the Chiefs on Christmas Day, which, at the very least, they should be able to get one of those wins. I think they can beat Baltimore. They have beaten Baltimore in Baltimore several years now, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. The Chiefs game, I think there's an opportunity for them to win it, but the Steelers are going to find a way to lose that game. Of course, they finished the season with the Bengals. I think the Steelers could be 12-5 when it's all said and done. I think that's the best case scenario. That's the worst case scenario for them. They finish 12-5. I don't think they're going to lose their last 4 games. If they did, then that's when you got to fire. That's when you got to do something about Mike Tomlin, man. Because it's just you're 10-4, and you're just proving the narrative that you only really care about the non-losing season rather than winning championships. Because it's just that's just something where I've talked about this several times before, but now that we're actually in the 11-day stretch that's going to make or break this team going forward, it's going to be very interesting to see how it pans out here. I think they can win at least one. I know they can probably win one of these next 3 games. If they find a way to win all 3 games and are sitting right there with the Chiefs for the number 1 seed, I mean, I'm going to feel a whole lot different. I'm going to sound a whole lot different coming out of that Kansas City Chiefs game. I'm just going to tell you that right now, but I don't know. I'm trying to be less optimistic than I've been the last couple of years, because every time I've been optimistic in December, this team has always found a way to disappoint me. So I'm gonna play it safe. I'm gonna go with the history. I think the Eagles are gonna win this one. I think it might be a close game, but Philadelphia will find a way to win this game, regardless of if it's the passing game or the running game. I'm just going with the history here. Give me the Eagles to go to 12-2 and the Steelers to drop to 10-4. So let's move on to a game that probably would have been a Super Bowl matchup if this was taking place in 2016 and these two were literally going to play in a Super Bowl. We've got the Arizona Cardinals hosting the New England Patriots. New England, the season's pretty much over for them. They've got a bright future with Drake May, but they're just waiting for the season to finish up here. With the only person really fighting for his job is Gerard Mayo. I think I read that these next 4 games are pretty much Gerard Mayo fighting to keep his job alive with the team. And I don't know. I don't think you get rid of him after one season, especially now that if there was a plan to bring Bill Belichick back. I mean, I think you give him one more year under the system. You get a team around Drake May and see what they can do with a real team around him, and you see what happens there. But of course, we got the Arizona Cardinals, which, as I've said before, the Cardinals, I just don't know what they are, man. Like, they're a team that I want to believe that they're going to be this great team that they can be. The last month of December last year really showed that there was a bright future with them. They go into Pittsburgh and Philadelphia and beat those two teams. And then they start the season playing very well against teams like Buffalo. They've knocked around the teams in their division, the 49ers and the Rams. But then you get a situation, then you get the Seahawks situation where they completely got swept by them. And they've just been struggling over the last couple of weeks now. They're just a very inconsistent team right now. And I think there is a lot of problems with the team, but there is a lot of things about it that is working. The running game is working with James Conner. Kyler Murray's been playing good football at times. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a nice piece to the puzzle there. But I really do feel like this team really, it's really hard to get a grasp on them going forward. If they make the playoffs, they could be a team that could easily be one and done overall. But I see the possibilities with them, just not the big picture overall. I do think they can win this game against New England because New England right now is not playing their best football overall, despite Drake May trying his best to hold the team together. I think the Cardinals find a way to win this game. It's going to be one of those games where it's going to be very, very close, but I think Arizona wins this one. I'm going to go with them to win it to go to 7-7, and the Patriots to drop to 3-11. Moving on, we've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers could have beat Kansas City last week, but of course couldn't hold it together when it mattered the most. Couldn't get a touchdown to really put the game away for them, but they're still hanging in there in the wild card right now. They're 8-6. There's the possibility there that things could work out in their favor. But it starts off with a game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are playing really good football right now and are being much better than the team that was leading the division for most of the season with the Atlanta Falcons. And of course, we know what's happening to the Falcons now. Baker Mayfield's doing a very good job getting the ball to Mike Evans. The Tampa Bay Buccaneer defense is getting stronger overall. They're playing really good football, and they're playing lights out football right now. I mean, they're playing dominant football that is really going to work. That's really working in their favor overall, and I think it's going to help them out in this game overall. So yeah, I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers win this one easily. I think it's not going to be that much of a close game overall. I think it's going to be a struggle for Justin Herbert and the Chargers to get going. They really do miss J.K. Dobbins. We saw it last week that they really do need a lot of help in the running game overall, and J.K. Dobbins not being there really does hurt them in the long run. I think Tampa Bay goes into this game and wins it. I think the Buccaneers win this one, go to 8-6. Chargers drop to 8-6. And then we've got a great Sunday Night Football matchup coming out between the Green Bay Packers and the Seattle Seahawks. Of course, the Packers, last time we saw them on a Thursday night, lost a close game to the Detroit Lions. Seattle dominated over the Arizona Cardinals. In the 2010s, both of these teams had really, really great football games. Of course, everyone remembers the Hail Mary game that started the Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll Seahawks era. Of course, everyone remembers the 2014 NFC Championship game where the Packers led and the Seahawks had that great comeback. These two teams have played really good football games, and this has the potential to be a classic game overall. Jordan Love and company coming off of that loss to the Lions, still doing whatever it takes to hold on to that slim bit of hope that they could possibly usurp the Detroit Lions or the Minnesota Vikings to get a better positioning in the playoff picture. But the Seattle Seahawks are on a roll right now. They have taken down the Arizona Cardinals, which right now is their closest competition, We'll see what they can do against the Rams and the 49ers later on down the road, but I think the Seattle Seahawks right now are playing really good football. They're going to have the benefit of being at home in this game, and I think it's going to be a very good football game. It should be a very close game overall. I think both teams will play very well. I'm going with the home field advantage on this one. I think the Seattle Seahawks are just more primed and ready to go to beat a team like the Green Bay Packers. I think they got the better advantage overall. I'm going to take them to win this one. I'm going to give the Seattle Seahawks the win to go to 9-5, Packers to drop to 9-5. And then we've got 2 Monday Night Football games this week, which I don't know why, but they're doing it anyway. We've got the first one here, the Chicago Bears over the Minnesota Vikings. The last time the Bears and the Vikings played on Monday Night Football, it was when Justin Fields was there, and he found a way to beat the Minnesota Vikings last year. And, yeah, it was a very interesting game to say the least, but as I mentioned before, I can't keep hiding my distaste for the Minnesota Vikings and how close they keep getting these wins. And I'm saying, you know what, fuck it. I'm on the bullshit train with them. And I think that really Minnesota has more of the upper advantage here, because the Chicago Bears, I thought they had a chance to beat the 49ers last week because the 49ers were so banged up. The Bears finally got rid of that cancer that was Matt Eberflus, but the Bears are in hell right now, and they're just looking for somebody to turn this team around here. And they thought that Bill Belichick was probably going to be the guy to do it, but of course, not going to happen anymore since he's going to North Carolina. So yeah, Minnesota, I think, has a good opportunity to just go in there and just mop the floor with the Chicago Bears. So yeah, I'm not even going to waste your time with this one. Give me the Minnesota Vikings to go to 12-2 and the Chicago Bears to drop to 4-10. So last but not least, we've got a matchup in Las Vegas between the Atlanta Falcons and the Las Vegas Raiders. The Falcons, oh boy, Kirk Cousins has been awful, man. And I can't believe that after 3 consecutive games where he's thrown 10 interceptions and no touchdowns, that Raheem Morris is still confident that he's the guy to go for the future. Like, why not put in Michael Penix Jr. and see what you can do with him? Like, why not do that? You're still very much in the playoff hunt right now, but you keep losing games like this, and it's just like it's gonna bite them in the ass big time. And they're playing against the Raiders, who are not a very good football team right now. They're just waiting for the season to be over. They're currently sitting with the New York Giants among the worst teams in football, which means that they're going to get a chance to draft one of these top quarterbacks coming up in the draft, whether it's going to be Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward. We'll wait to see what happens there. But they have one key weapon going for them this week. The Raiders quarterback is Desmond Ridder. Desmond Ridder, of course, was the quarterback that the Atlanta Falcons took in 2022 to eventually be the successor to Matt Ryan, and needless to say, it didn't work that well. But this is essentially a revenge game for them, and I don't know, man. Like, I feel like I'm going with the crazy possibility here. I'm gonna go and say that the Raiders under Desmond Ridder. I think Desmond Ridder will be so ready to take revenge on his former team and basically shut them down for good in this game. I think he's got an opportunity to do it. I mean, he's got a good tight end in Brock Bowers. They have pieces on the offensive front here that could make it work in their favor. I think they have an opportunity to go in there and really shock the world. I think they're going to pull off the biggest upset of the entire week, and I'm just going with the revenge factor. I think Desmond Ridder wants to get revenge on the team that drafted him and just completely abandoned him for Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix Jr., and I feel like this is the perfect game to do it with here. So I'm going to go ahead and go with the crazy possibility here. I'm probably going to be the only person in the country right now that's going to pick the Raiders to win this game. So give me the Las Vegas Raiders to go to 3-11 and the Falcons to drop to 6-8. It's not going to happen, but I'll be laughing so hard when it actually does. But recapping my Week 15 predictions, I have the Los Angeles Rams over the 49ers, the Browns over the Chiefs, the Bengals over the Titans, the Commanders over the Saints, the Ravens over the Giants, the Cowboys over the Panthers, the Jaguars over the Jets, the Dolphins over the Texans, the Broncos over the Colts, the Lions over the Bills, the Eagles over the Steelers, the Cardinals over the Patriots, the Buccaneers over the Chargers, the Seahawks over the Packers, the Vikings over the Bears, and the Raiders over the Falcons. As we're now reaching 4 weeks left in the regular season, what new and incredibly awe-inspiring possibilities await us as we meet back here next Wednesday to talk about Week 16? We'll wait to find out. But until then, thank you so much for watching and listening to what has been essentially my rambling here. But if you like what you saw, which, hey, congratulations on that. But if you like what you saw and you want to see more videos like this, please go ahead and check out some other episodes I did of this show. Check out the playlist as well. And hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next week. So thanks for watching and listening. I'll see you guys next time. Until then, Take care.